I have been sleeping with former brother-in-law after I was accused of cheating with him. I was married, on paper still, to the love of my life for 12 years. We met when he was 38 and I was 29. I found him to be the most beautiful and kindest soul I had ever met. And it was literally love at first sight. I have always been a sucker for kind people. When I met his family, his sister and mother, I was shocked at how little they thought of him. They made fun of him and actually bullied him. I literally never understood why they didn't see what I saw in him. It broke my heart, but he loved his family so much. He makes very good money, so when he introduced me as his girlfriend, his family hated me immediately, and his sister literally said that she never thought he would find anyone, so his money would go to her sons. At the time we met, I was a student, so they called me a gold digger because they could never understand someone would love him for him. He never spent a penny on me or my education, but we moved in together when I felt confident that I could contribute too. Now I make as much as him. The sister was married to her husband since they were teenagers, and they have 3 boys together, which she is very proud of for some reason, like she has a better vagina or something. But ever since I met them, they have been fighting. It culminated in him leaving her last Christmas. She was devastated because of it. One day, my husband called me to tell me that he was meeting up with her after work, so I asked how she was, and he said that she was not doing all right. I made the mistake of saying that I have never seen these two happy. Maybe she is broken now, but she will see that too, and be happy he took this step. They are miserable together. My husband was silent on the other end, and then I heard her voice yelling and crying. My husband never said I was on speaker and she was beside him. She already never liked me, but now she hated me. I tried to apologize, but it was just futile because she knew I meant it. That was what her ex said too, that they were miserable together and that he resented her. After a couple of weeks, she told my husband that the reason her husband left her was because of me, that we were cheating. My husband confronted me, and I immediately gave him all my devices to look. He did, and he believed me at first, but it took him a month of silent treatment to at last say that he couldn't be with me anymore. He was silent with me, but he was in daily contact with his sister. It broke my heart completely. One comment of mine ruined my relationship, but what broke me more was that my husband wasn't the beautiful, kind human I thought he was. He was just weak. His kindness is weakness. Even if he believed me initially, the constant stream of bullying and abuse of my character from his sister and sometimes even his mother swayed his confidence in me and even his feelings towards me, if he ever had any genuine feelings. I took my own advice about my relationship not being as great as I thought, and maybe him ending it was a blessing. I met ex-brother-in-law in the beginning of summer, and he said that he'd heard about what happened and that he was sorry he was the reason for ending my marriage. He said he felt guilty because he always told his ex how he admired our marriage and the love we had for each other. He compared it to what he wanted in a relationship, so he felt partially responsible for driving his ex-wife to try to hurt me that way. We kept in touch over text for a few months, and we slept together for the first time about a couple of months ago. I know it is very low, but I felt very vindicated. I don't feel as hurt at the injustice of being falsely accused of something like that, because it feels like I have done what they accused me of now. But I do feel some guilt sometimes, especially last week when my husband wanted to meet and discuss maybe postponing the divorce until we talk, and maybe talk to a therapist. Ironically, he now believes me because his sister is crazy. It is too late, dear husband. Now for the comments. You do know the ex-brother-in-law will throw you under the bus as soon as he needs to, don't you? What more can happen that hasn't already happened? I lost my husband and my safety. So you got accused of something you didn't do, so ended up doing it anyway? You do know this is probably going to get out at some point, right? Then everyone will just assume you were lying from the start. Yeah, who is gonna believe that was the first time OP and ex-brother-in-law hooked up? Yeah, nobody LMAO. Nobody believed me even before I slept with my ex-brother-in-law either. Everyone believed my husband, including our mutual friends. When he asked me to move out in 2 weeks, nobody believed a good man like him would do something like this if he didn't have solid evidence. Only my sisters and closest friend believed me, and of course ex-brother-in-law, but his reputation was in the mud too because he divorced the mother of his 3 children. So really, nothing would change reputation-wise. Your ex has been bullied and abused into being a doormat. That doesn't excuse his BS, but it does explain it. Him leaving you is 100% a mercy. His family baggage would have manifested in some terminal way eventually, and better now than later. But why stay enmeshed in this family and their BS? Your former brother-in-law played his own part in his toxic marriage. The only thing you've done is confirm all of your ex's worst thoughts of you and himself. For what? That's criticism I can respect. I have no answer other than familiarity and bonding over same experience. Next story. My ex's girl bestie learned what it's like to not be the hottest girl in the room. Okay, so this is petty but kind of funny to me, so I thought I'd post. So back in the day, I was in love with this guy who we will call Jay. I let him treat me like dirt and whatever. You've all heard it before. It's embarrassing, but I learned from it and moved on. Anyway, he had a girl bestie, who we will call Amy, and she was actually one of the most passive-aggressive people I've ever met in my life. Super mean to me, and at the time I was a bit chubbier, so she was able to make me feel super bad about myself. He always sided with her and brushed off her bullying as joking, and that's just how she is, and it was a nightmare. We would fight about it all the time, and he'd just call me insecure, which, to be fair, I was at the time. Anyway, we broke up years ago, but he did a number on me for sure. I have not heard about this man in years, because to me, once we are done, you're dead to me, and I will never look up what you've got going on. But I recently met up with an old friend who had been part of the friend group of Jay and Amy. She used to date one of Jay's best friends. They split pretty recently also due to Amy LOL, and we had gotten close and kept in contact, but I'd always asked her not to give me any details. But I'm recently engaged, yay, and Jay reached out to me on a new Insta of his asking if we could talk. I didn't respond, nor am I going to, because there's nothing to talk about. It's been like 4 years lol. But I mentioned it to my friend, and she was like, OMG, I have so much tea I've been wanting to spill, I just didn't want to cross any boundaries. And I was like, okay, I'm over it but nosy, so what's up? So basically, Jay and Amy never dated, but they always had a super weird relationship. And it was clear he was into her, but she wasn't into him. But she liked his attention. Well, any male attention. Amy is a pretty girl. I hate her, but she's not ugly. But she's like the hottest girl in a small town type of hot, if you get what I mean. And we all lived in a small town at the time, so she was Miss Thing over there. Anyway, apparently a woman who we will call Scarlett, because she low-key looks a bit like Scarlett Johansson, moved to that town temporarily for reasons I don't know. It's a random town, and she was originally from a huge city, but whatever. Anyway, Scarlett met Jay at a bar and they hit it off, and ended up becoming friendly. Don't know if it was romantic on her part, but he was trying to woo her for sure, and apparently it seemed he may have had a chance. My friend sent me pics of this girl and she's actually so pretty. It's insane to me. Like how? She was apparently a former model and honestly, I have no doubts about that. She's like TV beautiful. Like beautiful in every city, town, country you go to visit. A universal 10. And Miss Thing Amy suddenly was outshined to the highest degree. So Amy was mad and did her whole power trip thing, and Scarlett instantly was like, nah, I'm okay. Jay went nuclear on Amy because, to be honest, this girl was so far out of his league it's insane, and he knew he'd probably never be in the same room with a woman like that ever again. Anyway, Scarlett legit ghosted him straight up after the first meeting with Amy, and apparently never spoke to him again. What a queen. Wish I had done that. And Jay lost his mind and spilled all Amy's dirty laundry and verbally tore her apart, and she responded with just as much venom. So their friendship is done. The friend group is shattered, and the a-hole in me is just so happy Amy finally got out-hotted and learned she ain't all that. Jay losing a baddie is funny too. Anyway, this is a good lesson for girls who let men prioritize other women. If they are into you enough, they'd fight for you. So if that bum is telling you his friend is just joking when she's being a bully, leave. He'd go to war for his Scarlett, and if you ain't her, you are wasting your time. I found my prince who likes me as I am. I'm far from the cutest girl in a room, and it doesn't matter. I'm more than that. Hold your head high and only give your energy to those who deserve it. This is some good gossip. I don't know y'all, but I was invested the whole way through this post. Glad Amy and Jay got humbled. They deserved it. I know lol, maybe it makes me shady, but I do love some good gossip at the end of the day. Especially when it's about people I don't like lol. I honestly don't get girls like that. I'm not Scarlett hot, but but I definitely know I have a racial +2 to my looks, being one of the Eastern Asians, and I'm in the better numbers in a room. I don't need to throw my weight around. I tried to hype my guy friends up, but I rarely had them for long because I honestly had too many, waiting for their shot, friends, and not real ones. She sounds super insecure, and that's ugly as heck. Your man sounds awesome, and I hope you have many long years of happiness together. One of my best friends growing up still is, Scarlet Hot, and I gotta be honest, being the second prettiest girl in the friend group was freaking great. She always had a boyfriend and was the absolute goat at turning guys away and pointing them right in my direction. Ridiculously hot friends are awesome if you're not insecure about it. Agreed. My current bestie is also always the hottest girl in the room, and she doesn't give AF about male attention because she gets it all the time. Also, I unfortunately met her after I'd broken up with Jay. Otherwise, I do think she would have told both her and Amy a lesson real quick. So, what did Jay want? I don't know. I have not replied, and I am not going to, as that would be pretty disrespectful to my fiancé. Last story. My family called CPS while I was in the hospital fighting for my life. A little backstory. I just had my baby after a very rough pregnancy. I had to get what is called a nephrostomy tube through my back and into my kidney, like a catheter kind of, to help drain the kidney because the kidney couldn't drain on its own. I got this back in March. I had multiple other complications during the pregnancy: preeclampsia, cholestasis, and gestational diabetes. I finally had my son in August. It took 2 months to finally get surgery scheduled to get the neph tube removed, as well as some other surgeries to my kidney. I also have a 5 and a 3-year-old. Over the past couple of weeks leading up to surgery, I was in so much pain from my kidney. I was unable to take meds leading up to surgery. I called my family multiple times, asking for just a little help and support, because taking care of 3 little kids, one of them being an infant, while also in severe pain and healing from a C-section, as well as my body trying to catch up on all of the other health issues, has been exhausting. My family told me I didn't need help and to figure it out, that I can do it on my own. So I did. Thursday before my surgery, I had a friend stop by and help with the kids while I cleaned the entire apartment. Friday was my surgery. My mom came and stayed with the kids while I was in surgery and took my 3-year-old home with her after we got back. My 5-year-old went to his bio dad's, so that just left me and my husband with the infant. Over that weekend while I was healing from surgery, my husband also got a call that his dad was in the hospital, possibly dying. He had all kinds of questionable things lighting up on the imaging of his spine that could potentially be cancer or infection. Both would be very bad, since it was on the spine. So Saturday evening, the day after my surgery, my husband took the baby, went and picked up our 3-year-old, and went to the hospital with the kids to see his dad. I stayed home because I was feeling really lightheaded and dizzy from the surgery and went to sleep. When my husband got home, he asked if I could take care of the baby, and I couldn't even open my eyes. So he continued taking care of the baby, but was unable to do the dishes for the day. No big deal, we can do them the next day. Sunday morning, my husband had to go to work. I was alone with a 3-year-old and infant. When I got up, I tried to stand and fell over from the lightheadedness and dizziness. I fainted. I got up and changed the baby's butt. Since I was so dizzy, I set the diaper on the floor by the bassinet and barely was able to carry the baby to the living room. I put Mickey Mouse on for the 3-year-old and tried to lie down. I fainted again, and then I started hallucinating. I didn't know what was and wasn't real. I called my husband telling him something was very wrong and I needed to go to the hospital, but he didn't want a point for leaving work early. So I called my dad. When my dad and stepmom got there, my dad started screaming at me about my dishes needing to be done, the garbage being overflowing. We were out of bags and my husband planned to get more after work, and my 3-year-old having a cupcake and some cheese on the floor, and he saw the one diaper by the bassinet in my room. I asked my dad to stop yelling at me and just help me get to the hospital. My stepmom decided to look at the meds I was on and told me it was a side effect of my meds and gave me Tylenol and told me to sleep it off. They took the kids for a drive, and when they came back, they also yelled at my husband for the trash, dishes, and that we allowed the toddler to eat in the living room and get food on the floor. I had called for help at 10:30 a.m., and it was now 6 p.m. They finally took my temperature, and it was 102 degrees and getting worse. I was very out of it at this point. My husband rushed me to the hospital and immediately they told me the kidney had become infected during surgery and I was also septic. The nurses were worried for me. My temp was now 104 degrees and I was so out of it I didn't know what was going on anymore. I was admitted for the sepsis. While I was in the hospital, my dad ran his mouth to a bunch of people and way over-exaggerated and embellished his story about my apartment. So we don't know who, but one of these people ended up calling a CPS, expressing that my children were not being cared for and living in a pigsty. During this time, I was literally fighting for my life in the hospital. I was hooked up to oxygen, multiple different IVs, and lots of meds to help get me back on my feet. The morning after I got home from the hospital, I had CPS calling me and knocking on my door. I let her in and explained everything and how I was having a medical emergency, and that's why I called my dad, and he chose to be critical about my apartment instead of helping me get to the hospital. She was happy with everything she saw, said there's no case, and she's going to try to close it as soon as possible. It's just so frustrating that I called my dad in a time where I needed help, and instead I got criticism. And he ran his mouth so someone called CPS on us instead of even asking my side of the story or considering the fact I was hospitalized and needed help. I'm sorry you've had to deal with so much. I hope you're feeling better. You know your dad and stepmother aren't safe people, right? Calling CPS and behaving the way they did would be unforgivable for me. Have they even apologized? I'm trying to get the strength to go low contact, but it's hard because this is the exact opposite of who my dad usually is. He's someone I've always been able to count on, and I've always been very close to him. So this is very hard for me to process. I'm so sorry you're going through this. Please don't take my question as victim blaming and I'll elaborate. Did you make the point clear to your husband? I know I have a tendency to downplay, and when I get I have stuff going on, I'll just be like, okay, I'll figure it out. If you did make it abundantly clear how you weren't in a state that was safe for you or your kiddos, you need to sit your husband down and make it clear that what happened wasn't okay. Praying for your healing. My husband has been kicking himself ever since for everything that's happened in the past week. He didn't think it was that serious for him to leave work, and his train of thought was that points affect their raises. Which I get, but I was having a medical emergency and needed him. He has been my rock through all of this, though, and I think he knows that he should have just left work. I'm not going to make him feel worse because I think he already feels bad enough.